What's up everybody, and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking about scraping Understat and getting data from Understat.com. So the way we're going to do this is we're going to be using Python, and we're going to be using a couple packages in Python that are called requests and BeautifulSoup. And these are actually amazing packages, as they're going to allow us to get the URL, get the content of the URL, and then it'll allow us to parse that HTML basically, so that we can turn that into code, get the numbers, turn it into actual data that we can work with. So we'll do that. We'll turn it into a JSON format, and then as well we will turn it into a DataFrame if that's something you want, that you like doing better. But I mean, this is a tutorial. It's going to show you how to code everything, the logic behind everything. But if you're just wanting to like run the code and get the data, then you can download the file from my GitHub below. It's just called Understat Scraper, and you can get that and just run the code, enter in the match ID, and that way you'll be able to just have the code, have the shots, and everything should be a-okay. But anyways, guys, that's everything. Shout out to this guy and his blog post. He really was the one that, I took a lot of elements from his blog post and kind of used his blog post to create this video and have this as a basis of this video. So anyways, thanks for watching, guys. If you haven't already, be sure to hit subscribe for future content, and yeah, let's jump into it. All right, so what we're gonna do is we're going to start off in the very familiar territory of Jupyter notebooks. If you've ever watched any of the tutorials I've done before, then you know that I love Jupyter Notebook, and I really love like the platform that it provides to do these kind of visualizations and data science and everything. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be in Jupyter Notebook, and we're going to be scraping a single game's shots. So what we're going to do is we're going to head over to Understat, and we're going to get the URL for the game, and then we're going to read that in and scrape it and get all the content. So really this consists of 5 parts. So number 1, we're going to import the modules and all the packages. Then we're going to create our URL. And then 3, we're going to use requests and BeautifulSoup to scrape and parse the HTML and the data that's on the page. And then 4, we are going to turn the data basically into JSON format, and then we're going to turn the JSON format into a data frame using pandas. So what we'll do first is we will just start off by importing all of our different packages and modules that we're going to be using. So we'll just say import request or import modules and packages. So the first one is requests. So this allows us to get the URL and bring it into the page. And then we need to import BeautifulSoup is what it's called. So we're going to say from BS4 import BeautifulSoup. Then the next one that we need is called JSON. So we'll just say import JSON, and then as well, we're going to need pandas. So we'll say the typical import pandas as PD. So by doing this, we're importing everything that we need. Request is going to get the URL. BeautifulSoup is going to allow us to parse the page and the HTML. JSON is going to allow us to turn that data into JSON. And then pandas is going to allow us to turn the JSON into a data frame. So to start off, the first thing that we need to do after we've done that is we need to scrape the single game shots. So we'll do this. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a base URL, which is essentially just, if we head over to understat.com, and let's say we go to the EPL, the Premier League, and we're looking at, let's look at the Fulham-Liverpool game from Sunday, December 13th. So it has this URL up here, and what we're going to do is we're just going to take everything that's to the left of the numbers at the end. So including this // and we'll copy that. And then we'll just say the base URL equals in a string that. So we'll paste that in there. And then we need to create another URL that allows the user to basically enter in these numbers right here as the match ID. So we'll just say match equals, and we need it to be a string. So we're going to say string, or sorry, just str, and then input. And we'll just say, please enter the match ID. So we'll run that, and then after that, we're just going to say the actual URL equals our base URL. Oops, hit too many things at once. Base URL plus our match. So that's going to create the URL that we're going to scrape. So we'll run that, and as you can see, it says please enter the match ID. So for this one, it was 14547. So I'll enter that in, 14547, hit enter, and boom. So there's our, so now our URL, I mean, you can look at the URL now just to make sure it works. And so there's our full URL. And so the next thing that we need to do is we need to use requests. So requests, basically what we're going to do is we're just going to get the URL. So we're going to say requests, or we'll say res equals requests.get. So this gets the URL and it brings in the URL of this URL that we've created. So then after that, we're going to say soup. So this is using BeautifulSoup, and this is going to parse the URL. So we're going to say BeautifulSoup, and then we need to say res.content. So this is parsing the content of this page. And we're going to use something called LXML. And then basically what we're going to be doing, so on this page on here, if we look at, so if we go and inspect the page, this is something that you should be doing. So we're going to look at the sources, and we're going to look at the actual, so you have to refresh first. And so down here, this gives you the entire HTML code. And so what we're doing really is we're looking for a certain thing called shots data. So I'll look for it in here. Maybe it won't let me find it in here. Oh, there we go. So we're looking for this shots data right here. So what we're doing with our BeautifulSoup is we want to find our shots data, but we have to find these scripts to be able to find the shots data. So what we're going to do is we're going to use this, and we're just going to say scripts equals our soup. So all of our content that's been parsed, and we're just going to hit find all, and then we're just going to say script. So this is just basically finding all of the scripts in the page. So we'll run this, and then I'll show you what it's finding, just so it makes a little bit more sense. So if we hit scripts, we run that, we can see now it's found all of the script tags from the HTML that are on the page. So after that, really the only thing that we need to do is, so we want this script right here. We want all of this data right here, that's shots data. Obviously, where does it end? It ends right there. So this is just basically, as you can tell, it's one big list of script tags. So each script tag is a list item. So in this one, and in most cases, our script tag is going to be, the one that we want for the shots data, is going to be our second item element in the list. So what we're going to do is we only want the shots data, so we're just going to get only the shots data. And to do this, we're just going to say strings equal scripts, and then we want our second one. So in a list, it's technically in the first position because it starts at 0. And then we say string, so that turns it into a string. It'll get all of this and just turn it into a big string. So I'll run that, and then we can run this. So now you see that we have all of that, and it's just a big string, which we're going to turn right now into JSON. After we've done that, we need to basically, as you can tell, there's a bunch of this kind of stuff that we don't need, which is like at the beginning here, we don't need any of this. And then at the end, I mean, we don't need any of this either. So what we're going to do is we're going to strip the unnecessary symbols, and just so that we only have the JSON data. I almost spelled JSON Jason. Anyways, so what we're going to do is we're going to use a couple of variables to do this. So we're just going to say ind start, so index start equals, and then we just need to get the index. So we do this by basically putting in where we want to start this. So we only need this one right here. So there's a lot of clicking and deleting. Just make sure that you have all of this down. So right here, we have this, and then we want to start our index basically 2 more. It's hard to put these inside of strings. So just to avoid confusion, we'll start here and then we'll add 2. So this is where we want to start basically the stripping. So we're going to start here. And then at the end, so we'll say index underscore end equals strings dot index. And then same thing, just this is at the very end. I'll go show you what this is looking like at the end. And so that is how that ends at the end. Just make sure that you have all of this correctly. So this one is at the end. We want to start right here, basically, and strip everything to the right of it. So now what we're going to do is we're just going to say our JSON data equals strings, and then we'll just basically pass in those 2 variables we started. So ind start, and then this is going to go all the way to ind end. And then the last thing we need to do is we just need to encode the data. So last step, this is kind of confusing if you don't really know exactly what's going on, and I'm not diving too deep into this just because I could spend probably a little while going over all of this, and I don't really want to do that for this video. But anyways, just make sure that this is all correctly. As well, if you need to, just copy it straight over from the code that I post on my GitHub. You can just do that. So basically what this is going to do is it's just going to encode the data, and then right here is where we are going to convert string to JSON format. And so now we're just going to say data equals JSON.loads, and we're going to pass in that JSON data that we've created, and boom. So now we have it all in, so if we look at data, we have it all in JSON format now, which is really nice because it takes it from going from here to now we have a more legible version of this, which is a lot easier to read and manipulate this kind of data than it is here. But we're going to take it one step further. So you could technically just use this and you can start plotting, it has in here, it has the X, the Y. If you want to just plot the shots, it has results, minute, it has player ID as well as player. So you definitely can just start taking it from here and plotting it, but we're going to go one step further and we're going to turn it into a data frame. So it makes it even easier to plot. Because I like working with like data frames and plotting out of data frames than just plotting straight JSON. So what we're going to do is we need to create our variables. So to create a data frame, we need to create, basically we're just going to go through this entire list. It has a home, and then it has an away somewhere down here, right here. So it has a home and it has an away. So that's our first element of our JSON. Oops, scrolled up too far. And then each one of those has a big list of dictionaries, which is basically each action or shot is a dictionary element or item. So what we're going to do is we're basically just going to loop through the home and the away, and we're just going to append it to some lists that we create. So our first list we're just going to say is our x coordinates, so x, and then we need our y. And I'm not going to do every variable. You could do every single variable here if you wanted to. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do x, y, and expected goals for now. And then the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to just create two more variables. Actually, we'll throw in team too. So we'll say team. So we're going to create two more lists, which basically all we're going to do is we're just going to say data away. So this is all of our away data. We're just going to say data A. So it's basically just getting everything that's inside of this list element down here. So it's just going to get all of this. And then we'll create another one for data home, which equals data H. So this is all of our home data up here. So now what we're going to do is to run through this, we have to create a for loop, a nested for loop, which is basically a for loop inside of a for loop. It's a little complicated of a topic, so I'm not going to get too in depth with it. I'm not really going to go over what it's doing, but basically the essentials are we just need to run for index in range, and obviously there could be more like simple ways to do this. This is just how I've done it, and so if you do know of a simpler way to do this, be sure to leave a comment down below, or you can tag me on Twitter with a different solution of how to do this and extract JSON data into a data frame. This is just how I've always done it. But basically we're going to run for index in range. So this is going to run for each one of these indexes. So for home and away, we're going to say, and then for key in data underscore home index. So it's a little confusing if you don't really know what's going on with for loops. I'd recommend looking up nested for loops to kind of understand the basics of them. But basically all we're going to do now is we're just going to add some if statements. So we'll say if key is equal to x, so this x right here, we're going to x.append data underscore home, and then we have to pass in the index and the key. So basically what this is doing is it's going to run a for loop of this home through all of these list elements. So the index is home, and then it's going to go through each key, which is each list element inside of this list of home that it has. It's kind of confusing to explain. I'm not the best at explaining it. But basically what it's doing is going to go through each home list element, and it's going to look for the x here, and it's going to append this value onto the end, onto the end of this x. So since we don't have anything in there, the first one will be 0.7719 all the way to the end. And then the next thing that we need to do is basically we're just going to do that again for the y. So we'll just basically copy this. It'll be easier if we just copy it down. We'll just do that 2 times or 3 times. So now here we'll just say if equal to y, then we'll do y.append, and then we'll say if key is equal to xg, then we'll do xg.append, and then we'll say if key is equal to, so on this one, we need to make sure that we're doing it right, because this is our home data. We need to say if key is equal to if key is equal to h underscore team, then that is where we're going to append that to our team. So basically what it's going to do is it's going to append everything for the home team first, and then we will just basically copy that down. And so this one will be for our away data now. So we'll just switch this to data underscore away, and then we'll do for data away, and basically you just have to copy this all the way down. So if key equals, so we have all that set up, just switch all this to away. So this is appending everything to the end of those same variables, but it's all going to be for the away data, so it'll line up nice, and we'll be able to see it easier than before. So we'll run that, and it ran. We're not going to look at all these, but now we're going to create the actual data frame. So we're going to do this by, we're just going to name our column names. So if we name our column names, we'll just name those into a list, and we'll just say X, and then we'll do Y, XG, so expected goals, and then our team. And then we'll create our data frame, which is, we'll just call DF, which is very typical of a data frame. It's probably a bad habit to call it DF, as it does not describe the data frame, but whatever. And then we'll say PD. So this is where we're going to use pandas, and we'll say pd.dataframe. And then inside of the parentheses, we need to pass a list of these lists that we created up here. So we'll pass in, and these need to match up with these right here. So we'll pass in X first, and then we'll pass in Y, then we'll pass in XG, and then we'll pass in team. And then as well, we need to pass in our column names, but for right now, we're just going to pass it into the index because we're passing in these lists up here, so it's going to put it horizontally. But we'll do something in a sec, which will change it. So we'll pass in index equals column names. And then, so as you can see, oops, it's column names. So as you can see, we can look at our data frame right now, and this is what it looks like. So obviously it's horizontal, but we can see that it's passed in all the values correctly. So what we're going to do now is we're just going to transpose that data, which basically means we're just going to flip the index and the columns. So say data frame equals df dot capital T. We'll do that. And yeah, that is how the team looks like. And I forgot to switch this. This should be key equals away team. So we'll rerun that. So now we have all of our Fulham shots and all of our Liverpool shots. And if you wanted to, obviously you could look at the result. You would just need to add another if statement in here, which would be result. And then you would just append that to a new list called result. So that is everything for this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already, please be sure to subscribe. Unless you're a Real Madrid fan, then please do not subscribe. I'm just kidding. Anybody can subscribe. But anyways, thanks for watching, guys. If this tutorial helped you out, be sure to leave a like, and as well, hit me up on Twitter. Let me know what I could be doing better, what other things you guys would like to see, and I'll be sure to see you in the next video.